Okay, all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilman Alvarez.
Here.
Councilman Cullen.
Here.
Councilwoman Eckhart. Here. Councilwoman Hudak.
Here.
Supervisor Hay.
Here. Notations of the exits in the front and the rear, and electronic device, please put it on vibrate. Make a motion to open the meeting.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the agenda tonight is a presentation by Putnam County. Is anyone here from Putnam County as yet? Okay, seeing that they're not here, I did remind them, I sent an email yesterday to them to remind them about tonight's meeting. So we'll continue through the agenda, and when they come in, after the item that we're on at the time, we'll go back to them and continue the agenda. Okay, first thing on the agenda will be a public hearing for section 131-20 of Town Code, parking prohibited certain hours. I make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, please take notice that the Town Board of the Town of Southeast shall hold a public hearing on September 8, 2016 at Town Hall, 1360 Route 22, Brewster, New York, at 7 p.m., or as soon thereafter as interested parties may be heard pursuant to the Municipal Home Rule law to consider a proposed local law which, if adopted, would amend Chapter 131, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 4, Commuter Parking, Section 131-20, Parking Prohibited Certain Hours of the Town Code, to remove the prohibition on parking in commuter lots between the hours of 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. All persons having an interest in the foregoing matter would be given an opportunity to be heard on this time. Okay, we have two parking lots that the town has access to. One is 67 Main, which is down between the library and Old Southeast Town Hall, and the computer parking lot, Southeast Station. The way the restriction reads now, you can't park there between 3 and 6. Now, until it was brought to my attention just recently, I didn't know that it existed. It really doesn't make a lot of sense to have because, as you know, a lot of people go into the city. They run, 3 shifts, first, second, third shift, so they could be there at any point in time. I think the purpose of it was to prevent anyone parking there so we can get, snow removal and things of that nature, but it doesn't work. So we're gonna take it out. One, we can't enforce it between 3 and 6 a.m. because we're just not out there. And again, for those commuters that pay for permit parking, have to have access to the lot. So we're gonna hopefully remove it. Would anyone like to speak to that issue?
Supervisor, just for some legislative background, the reason that was put in was that there were storm events that needed to, whereby the highway department needs to clear that lot. And by having that restriction in there, I think they felt that they could legally tow the vehicles that were left there between those hours of the night in order to get them out of the way while they clean the parking lot. If that doesn't seem to be the necessity any longer, I don't see any reason why you can't repeal it.
Well, again, the unfortunate thing is people are paying for permit parking. Like I said, there's 3 shifts. Some people actually leave on Monday and don't come back until, Friday evening. So it's not a fair thing. We do get around them. It's not easy. It's very difficult. But we've been managing for quite some time and haven't told anyone, so. Anyone from the public? See no public comment?
We do.
Whoop, would you mind come up to the,
I just have a question.
up by the mic if you don't mind, please?
Christine Pacini. My question is very simple. You referenced having 2 parking lots, one in the village, 67 Main, and the other one at the commuter parking lot at the train station. This ordinance change will affect parking in both of those lots, or is it strictly for the train station?
Both.
Thank you.
We have people that do use permit parking down in the village that I mentioned. They happen to be one of the tenants there, and we work around it. We've asked them during snowstorms to park at the very end so we can get 90% of the parking lot or 95%, and they've agreed to do that. Anyone else? Seeing none, I make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Make a motion to go into the work session portion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
First item on the work session is discussion on Barrett Hill. Item A would be Town of Southeast Planning Board report and recommendations per 138-92 per Barrett Hill. Ashley and Rick, are you going to take the lead for both?
So the first item is at the August 22nd Planning Board meeting. The Planning Board issued a report and recommendation to the Town Board on the proposed zoning for Barrett Hill. They recommended a number of changes that are outlined in the letter that you received. At that meeting, the applicant was supportive of the majority of those recommendations. And so following that meeting, a draft revised local law was prepared for your consideration, and that's also on the agenda this evening.
Okay. Anyone, I have some questions. Anyone want to lead first?
We can start at the end.
Evan, you have anything?
Mine is more of two comments, and I want to hear what everybody else has to say and whatnot. I mean, reading through all of this, there's some very good suggestions and recommendations. One of them is to limit the number of people, that we're going to allow in like a two-bedroom. My thing is the usual. Can we truly enforce it just in the sense of you get a couple that moves in, they have one child or even two children, then all of a sudden they get pregnant and have triplets. Now, you're saying you're only going to allow 5 people in a two-bedroom, and now all of a sudden we have, 6 or 7 people. Clearly they can say, I have to move, but I just don't know, is there really any way we can enforce it except we're just having it on the books, just to kind of say, okay, it's on the books. Then the second thing was just simply item number 6, when we talk about that we can approve or disapprove the organizational group or company that shall manage and ensure compliance with the eligibility requirements for the project. I thought in past conversations on the board, I'm trying to limit myself from having a say on who they choose and who they don't choose based on the legality of it. I don't want it to come back and say, well, the town board didn't approve the person or the organization and vice versa. So I'm just not sure we're opening up a slippery slope there, but I could go either way, as long as we talk about it, and I just want to hear Willis's opinion, Ashley's, and the rest of the board.
Well, I can address the occupancy comment first. The numbers that are included in this recommendation are the same that's as part of the Westchester County's model ordinance. In terms of enforcement of those numbers, this law does require that the applicant have a management team that would be responsible for selecting qualified occupants, and so that management team would be responsible for enforcing the occupancy restrictions. In terms of selecting who that management company or organization would be, I think it is important for the town board to have a say in that, and the planning board did as well.
Thanks.
Gabe, Lynn?
I would like to, we can start with the occupancy. And I think, someone will enforce it if someone's taking advantage usually, if it's a really big family. But I have a problem with a maximum of 5 people in a 2-bedroom. I think it's going to add more children possibly to the school district, but also a 2-bedroom, although they're very generous at Barrett Hill, they're really quite large, but we have it in this document that they can be as small as 750 square feet. So I would personally like to see that changed down to 4 people, but that's, there again, it's obviously open for discussion. So that was something that did bother me. I thought if it were 750 square feet, it would be problematic. When you skip down to 7G and under 5, it says typical preference groups could include such residents and/or workers in the town of Southeast who were members of the fire and police force, school district employees, veterans residing in Putnam County, persons age 55 and older, persons with disabilities, Putnam County first responders, etc. And that's used twice. Why is that? Why is etc. used? Does that mean we can add people to it? I just don't know the legality of it and why.
Yes, I think that was the intention, was that that is suggested lists of the types of groups that would be preferred. But it's open-ended that additional groups could be added.
Okay, I would be much more comfortable if I think that really leaves the door open, which is not how we best represent people in town, so it's used twice, I'd much prefer to get rid of that, and then certainly anyone can petition this board and can come in front of us if they need to add a group to this.
Well, I think the way it's written is that it would, the applicant would be required to prepare the community benefits agreement or marketing
Right.
strategy, and as part of that, they would have to establish specifically what groups would be the priority groups, and that's where the town board would,
So that's why et cetera is
That-
in.
yes.
Okay, I'm less than thrilled, but that helps, thank you. This, I know I've spoken to Ashley about, bear with me, I'm gonna read this because it just doesn't make any sense to me. It was explained, and I'd like you to explain it again. Under B of, there again, it's 7B. With respect to sales units, such affordable priority units shall be sold to qualifying affordable households at sales prices equal to 90% of the prices set forth in the sales offering plan or memorandum for the first 6 months of sales as established by the sale of the first unit, or 90% of the sales price of similar housing units in the subject multi-unit, multifamily housing development in the 6 months preceding the date of the contract of sale, adjusted for unit size. I think this is so unclear. I don't have a problem with it when you explained it to me. That's not the problem. To me, this is just, and maybe, well, it's much smarter minds than I'm sure you understand it, and Will does, but, and I don't know if that can be somehow clarified.
Okay, so.
And you can explain
I'll
to, the
explain
board
what
might,
it
does the
means,
board all
and-
understand that?
This is based on language provided in the applicant's draft local law, but my understanding is that for the first 6 months of marketing or sales of these units, if it is going to be a for sale unit, they wouldn't have a price established yet to make the basis of the affordable housing. So they would set their marketing, their offering plan would set a price for the market rate units, and then the affordable units would be 90% of those. But once you've had, later on, so like 3 years from now, if there had been sales and there was now an affordable unit that was coming up for sale, that sale price would be based on the preceding 6 months to that sale, as opposed to going back to the original offering plan. And I don't know if the applicant wants to weigh in on that.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the premise, it's just the wording that I think is very confusing. So, and I don't know how the rest of the board might think it's fine, so I'll move on. On reservation of parkland, which is I feel that the town board, this is going to be, that the planning board will set recreation fees if so needed. I'm more comfortable with the town board, I'll be long gone, I'm sure, much to everyone's dismay, but I think we might be served better by the town board setting those fees, so it's just a suggestion on my part. I think, I feel most strongly, as I said, about the occupancy. And also it says under C1, multifamily residential housing, subject to the issuance of a special permit from the town board and site plan approval from the planning board. But the special permit in this case will come after seeker, it'll be the usual.
Right, so
okay.
in this case, the site plan and special permit portion of it's being treated as a coordinated action, with the town board being lead agency. So on your agenda tonight, you have consideration of the negative declaration. That would apply to the site plan and special permit actions down the road. So there wouldn't be another round of seeker on this.
Okay. All right. Those are my questions, and I would appreciate, too, if the town board feels very strongly one way or the other, certainly on occupancy, because we are going to set another public hearing for this. So anyhow, that's it. Thank you.
Where you have the, Lynn, I didn't understand, under I, reservation of parkland, you would want the planning board language changed to town board?
Yeah, I would be much more comfortable.
Okay, so you want the town board to approve any site plan okay, I just wanted to,
Well, I would suggest that if you changed it to town board, then you would change any references in that section to
Right.
site plan to special permit.
To special permit, okay, then that would be what I would recommend on that, so, thank you.
and, okay, Ashley, so tell me, what's the difference? What's the difference between the planning board, because I've heard the arguments before that the town board is not that suited to this kind, I mean, it came up in Crossroads where the town board was basically, well, at least I heard that we weren't as qualified or as, I'll use the word savvy, to do so. So, to grant that kind of differences. So
Well, I mean, in the way this is written, it's relating to the site plan application and the amenities that would be provided on the site plan. So that's why, in this case, since the site plan's in the planning board's jurisdiction, it would be the planning board that would be reviewing the amenities that are provided and weighing whether or not those meet the recreation demands created by the development. The actual fee would be based on the fee that is set by the town board. So, as you do on an annual basis, you set your recreation fees. So in this case, what it's saying is that the planning board would look at the amenities that are provided, and then make a determination on what percentage of the recreation fee would be paid based on the amenities that are provided. So if there are no amenities provided, then they could charge a per unit recreation fee at the fee that's set by the town board. But if there are substantial recreation amenities provided, they could provide less than that.
Is this a function usually of a planning board?
Well, typically, the planning board sets the recreation fees for a subdivision application, so.
Okay.
Right.
And that's 7,500 per lot, I believe, or 7,000.
In point of fact, actually, the town board establishes the
Fee.
recreation fee. The planning board, in determining
Right.
how many lots there are in a subdivision application, would then say, if you have 7 lots, it's 6
Right.
recreation fees or something like that.
Right.
But this is so much, how would we do it in this context where it's not a subdivision, it's units?
So in this case, it's based on the number of, so the unit, the base price would be the same as a lot. So because it's the same household. So if you have a single-family house on a lot, that's, potentially the same demand on recreation that a unit in an apartment building would have. So that would be the baseline. In terms of how it would be determined by the town board, you would have the site plan when you were reviewing the special permit. So you would also be able to do that analysis if you preferred to keep that with the town board.
And we could get a recommendation from the
And you could get a
planning board.
recommendation from the planning board.
I only bring this up, and I don't want to interrupt Liz, and I apologize, Liz, but
No, I asked the question.
But I brought this up because we have gotten criticism, which I think has been fair, that we haven't, in this town in general, and we haven't gotten enough back from developers, and I will include all developers in that. So that's one reason I brought it up.
Okay, but it still doesn't, which board would do it, the planning board or the town board? So, in essence, my understanding is when we had received, the planning board issued the recommendations, I believe it was on August 22nd, and my understanding through an email chain thread was that the developer had accepted all of the recommendations save one, and then that was followed up with an email saying, and the recommendations, I believe, are on, probably you can get them on the website or foil them or whatever. But the bottom line is, my understanding then was the applicant apparently then accepted all of the recommendations. You, Ashley, had prepared a option 1, option 2 scenario.
Yes.
Regarding it. So, in essence, the applicant developer has accepted all of the planning board recommendations, and you proceeded to do that, and just for the public's thought process, we have an option 1 and an option 2.
Right.
Which we've been presented with as far as speaking about it. I know that right now, and I think we're kind of melding all of our discussions together, because the discussion initially, 1A, was just on the planning board recommendations, but I don't have a problem kind of melding them all together, Lynn, because I know you were kind of talking about a couple other things. So, in the first instance, I believe that the applicant has accepted the planning board recommendations. I believe the planning board was very thoughtful in their recommendations, and as such, I personally would suggest that whether it's option 1 or option 2, I think we have to maybe have a little more discussion on that, but I'm satisfied in what they did. I don't have the same concern, Lynn, as that you have with the certain language, the setting of the sums of money, et cetera. I just think, the language in of itself might sound a little awkward, but if you read it through a couple of times, I think it's okay.
Right, and I think what I find, and this is just me, obviously it's just me, but whereas the applicant petitioned, as is their right for this, I have no problem with that, I understand it completely, but where I do have a problem or can have a problem is deferring to the applicant when it is the majority of the board, and I'm sure that it will be, to go along, but I'm not as invested, I don't feel as strongly that because the applicant wants something, that's something that we're bound to do or we should do, that's all. And that's why I bring up some changes that I hope would represent our residents, because they are my first concern.
Okay, no, but all I'm saying is I think that it's our concern too, and the planning board had their concerns, and they issued a fairly detailed, like 2 1/3 pages, which I think in and of itself, once again, trusting the planning board, what I'm saying is that the planning board is another board that is concerned with the residents, as well as us, issued these recommendations, and the applicant accepted all the recommendations, so that's what I was saying. I'm done, Tony.
Okay. Okay, there's kind of a mix, oh, wait, go ahead.
I just, regardless of who sets the price with respect to Terry Hahn, LADA, PC Land Planners. The real issue comes into play as to when that gets done. Typically at the end of the site plan approval process, after which it's already gone through all the other boards, that's when the bond gets set, that's when the erosion inspection information gets set. And typically at that point, that's when the determination of when what the recreation fees would be occurs. So it makes a sort of a logical flow that all occurs at one time with the planning board. And it's a practical component. Should it go to change so that it's part of the special exception, I'm not sure how that, if it gets approved as part of the special exception approval, so there's not another step after you've already gone to special exception and then site plan, and then you got to come back to set the recreation fees. However it goes, we're just trying to make sure that the process stays as simple as possible. So it's.
I assumed it
we
could be.
We don't have one way. We have no preference one way or another. I'm just saying that there's a certain number of steps that all occurs here. So how you add that determination back into the process could potentially add a considerable amount of time afterwards when you've already think you're all set with site plan approval.
Right,
So,
and I liked Ashley's suggestion of a special permit, and it's not the intention, I don't think at all, to drag on forever or add additional steps. It really isn't. It's just my concern that something, and I'll just take this as an example. In this case, it was senior housing, and in general, seniors would use, we have a senior resources, and they would use those and pay for those, but that they would use less probably in forms of local recreation. So they weren't required, there was no recreation fee, as I understand it, before. So that was my concern, that's why I brought it up, and and it is not my intention to add
I believe
extra
that
hoops.
the way that I would read this is that the applicant would be required to submit sort of a value with respect to the recreation that's proposed, the number of uses, and then similar to what you do to set the bond amount, is that the town engineer and the staff would make a determination, is that worth 10%, is that worth 60%, is that worth, what might that be worth in terms of how it's going to be used. But that's going to be something new, no matter what occurs. So that usually the staff is prepared to make those kinds of value judgments based on concrete elements. That's all we'd be looking for.
Okay, thank you.
And then developments such as like Fieldstone and Hunter's Glen, when they have their own pool, they have their own tennis courts, they have playgrounds that are nicer than the town has.
Hey.
Those kids don't really use the town, they don't go to Lake Tenetta or swim. You know, they stay at their pool, so it's something we should keep in mind.
We could have a pool, but we wouldn't have a spray park that nobody used.
Well, it wasn't nothing to do with that.
Good evening. If I can just raise a point on this, because I think most, if not all, the board members are aware of it. Veterans Park was physically built as a cooperative effort between the development group and the town, with the town engineer and the town planner having input and design. And it was built for about 40% of what it would cost to have gone out on a formal bid. At least that's what we had from Jacobson Associates. That was done willingly. That was volunteered. Scarpina Park was not tied to any rec fees. It was done after most of that development that Mr. Cullen just referred to was built. There was no quid pro quo, no other application. It was given. One of the issues is a discussion about a property the town of Southeast has off of Independence Way and building a park, building rec fees. And one of the thoughts is the ability, i.e. private sector, being able to help to physically create that and do it in a manner that you're able to complete that and at a cost that works very well for the town. It's very different than going out with public bidding. Just something to keep in mind, and one of the reasons I think one of the discussions with some of the planning board members was the ability to maybe physically do this work as opposed to just an assessment and writing a check. Thank you.
Okay, we have A, B, C, and D, and there's kind of a mixed way we're doing it, so I'm just gonna make any that was just basically addressed. Okay, I'm going now back to the planning board's comments on number 2. It is unclear why non-affordable housing units would have the preference list. The percentage of affordable housing units should be the total number of housing units as opposed to a percentage of the preference list units. In addition, a minimum number of affordable housing units should be required. In this case, they do identify that number, which is 17, okay?
Yes.
And on top of that, there's an additional 33, which are considered, what's the word, priority units.
Priority units,
Not-
which
not
would be market
affordable.
rate units.
So there's affordable priority, which are the ones that get discounted, so to speak, which is 10% of them, which is 17 in this case. And then there's 33 that would just be market rate. Everyone would pay the same, whether it was you, me, a veteran, elderly, or whatever it may be. Now, one bit of confusion I have here, so in that case here, with that comment, it is identified as being 10%. Now, my confusion now is, Lynn mentioned the number of 90%, which is stated throughout different documents. Now, on the EAF, on 1-4, they identify the cost per units. And a single bedroom is identified as being an affordable one is $1,444.
Right, so that would be the rental price, the 90% that Lynn was referring to was part of, if there was a sale price.
Oh, so only sale?
Yeah,
Okay. So that clears up one of them. Okay. Now, we're all over the map here, so hold on. The priority unit, is there any kind of the affordable ones have a 99-year plateau, so to speak. The ones that are just, I get them confused, affordable and then priority, and just a priority unit. Once a unit, if they go over the 17 units and they rent an affordable, they got 33 units. Let's say all 33 were rented as priority units at full market value, okay? Do they always have to remain priority units thereafter? It doesn't state in the context whether it does or not. Because that would be something where, one of the reasons where, if I was a developer, I'd ask not to have like the planning board stated there, because it doesn't serve a purpose, because they're paying the same price. So the question is, if you sell another unit or rent another unit, 33, or it could be 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever the number be, up to 33, if the priority unit is a priority unit, does it always retain to be a priority unit?
I
It doesn't, I
do
looked.
not believe it has the same 99-year restriction in the
It
zoning.
doesn't have a restriction, so the question is, if it becomes a priority unit, someone takes it up, full, does it remain a priority unit thereafter? It's like the next person that comes in, it doesn't have to be a priority unit.
Yeah,
Well, it's important only because of the fact, if it's not gonna be, then there's no sense putting it like the
I
planning board
believe that would
said.
be laid out in the community benefits agreement. It's not in the zoning that it would have the 99.
Yeah, and how come we don't have the community benefits as part of this package?
Well, it's included as part of their application, but this action is specific to the zoning. If you approve the zoning, they would then come forward with the special permit and site plan application, and that's where the town board would review the community benefits agreement and make any amendments to that.
Okay. Terry, you're gonna tell us?
With respect to the priority units, it's not tied into specific unit. In other words, unit 3B, once it's a priority unit or it's rented for the first time for a priority unit, the intent is that it would be a total number of units, so they may move around
I don't have a
over
problem with
time.
that, but let's say all 33 get rented out as a priority unit.
Yep.
Do those 33 remain priority units throughout the term of the
I
contract?
believe that's,
No.
yeah, it's not those specific ones,
No, no,
but
no,
a total of 33.
33.
Correct.
So if all 50 units get rented out, affordable priority or just a priority units, they are all within the 99 years? Does that state that? you
Well,
think?
it doesn't say that. The requirements, the law always identifies the affordable housing for 99, but I believe that within the community, your intent is that there always be the priority units. Yeah, you're offering it, yes.
Yes, so after the first, they all rent out.
Yep.
If someone takes a priority unit and they meet the qualifications, does, not that unit, let's say there's 5 units, do 5 units within that complex always remain priority?
Yeah.
Okay, can you make sure that's clearly
Yeah,
stated?
I believe where that is in the community benefits agreement, but I think.
Not in the zoning.
It's not in
Okay.
the zoning, because
Okay.
the zoning is more limited.
It's more general.
Yeah.
Because it could be applicable potentially to other properties in the town.
Okay. We mentioned Parkland early on. Our biggest problem here in the town with the, what is the generosity of developers who have done things which we appreciate. We have Pump House as a town park, we have Scalpino Park, Markel Volunteer Park, we had Wells. It's tough to keep these all up, and every time we do something at one park, guess what? The other park wants it, so we have them scattered all throughout towns. And I'm telling you now, we can afford to maintain them in a sense, but when it comes to buying equipment for them, you put a fancy set of swings at this park, what's wrong with us? So it multiplies out. A lot of towns in the past, they have big parks, there's 8 ball fields, whatever, we've got them scattered all over. So if I'm here, I would ask that they pay recreation fees, because in this proposal here, it says they could also donate land as parkland. So if I had a choice with that, I would say I'd rather have the money to maintain what we have than to pick up another pocket park, which costs us even more money to maintain in the future. That's only a comment, okay? And I have a question maybe of you, Terry, if you could. In your EAF, on the typical floor plan, Model B, I can't they don't have the dimensions up here, but someone's written in pencil. So before you build them, I want to point something out. What does that say? What's the dimension of that room? We're looking at a bedroom now. I think it says,
I believe it's 12 by 11.
I came up with 13 by 11. Okay, no matter what.
Yeah.
If these are gonna have the minimum that can be, you don't have the proper square footage. So before you have these all drawn up and you start building houses, that does not meet the code.
For the minimum size of a bedroom?
Yeah.
Okay.
In other words, the way the code is, and that's New York State,
The unit.
huh?
It's the minimum size of the unit, not.
Yeah, but New York State law states, okay, that an area for sleeping purposes, which this would be, every bedroom occupied by one person shall contain at least 70 square feet, 6.5 m's of floor area. And every bedroom occupied by more than one person shall contain at least 50 square feet. Okay, so that'd be 150 square feet would be the minimum. Because you have three. You're saying in a bedroom you can have up to three. So if it gets reduced to two when requested, but if it remains three, you have to make sure that it's at least 150 square feet. So if it's 12 by 11 that you just stated, it's way under. If it's 13 by 11, the way I figured out, it's just barely under. But I hate to see you start doing that and not. So I'll forward that to you. Okay. And, time out, let me see what else I got. Nope, that's it on that one. Thank you. Okay, we, yes.
I just wanted to point one thing out, and that's this, that obviously the recommendations made by the planning board were constructive recommendations, and they were such that the applicant voluntarily said, I'm going to make this part of the application. So obviously the planning board looked at this. Quite frankly, they're constructive suggestions. We've incorporated them into the application. So I just want to make sure that's clear.
How do you think ours is constructive as well?
Well, I think they're very constructive, but I think the important thing is that it's not like we just got what we wanted. It's we had to go through this process, and obviously the deliberations have resulted in this becoming even a better proposal than it was originally, and that's a positive reflection on the process. I think the other thing that's important here is to realize that when this is said and done, and this goes to the priority units, you may have a teacher, unlike a teacher who for the first 5 years falls into the category of affordable housing, being qualified because the salary is below that 80%. You may have a teacher who's been teaching for 25 or 30 years, maybe a widow or a widower, and is looking for an apartment, and that's a teacher who would fall within the priority grouping, but not necessarily qualify for affordable housing. So, I mean, that's part of the intention with all of this is to help those that are helping us in terms of education, in terms of health, in terms of the fire department, and I just want to make sure that's clear.
Thanks. If I can add one thing that Tony said, which I didn't think of, and it relates to the rec fees being paid, coming before the board. What Tony said is something that I wouldn't even think of, is that, and if I were on the planning board, it would sound great, we're getting another park. What could be bad about that? That's terrific. But because the town board, people on the town board, the members, and especially the supervisor will know the costs involved, I think that's yet another reason that it would be better to have a special permit without adding steps at the town board level, so.
Well, I think that's something that will be discussed among the town board and the planning board, because remember, you've got about 4 bites of the apple on this when it comes to the site plan approval, when it comes to the special permitting. All of those are subject to public hearings and further negotiation. And obviously, the community benefits agreement is something that that is part and parcel to an application. It is the voluntary component to an applicant proposing to avail himself or herself of this floating zone concept. And of course, that's part of the process. So anyway, thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Okay, next item on will be B, Putnam County Division of Planning, Development, and Public Transportation, 39M, report of Barrett Hill. Does anyone care to make comment here on that one? Seeing none. C, local law to establish a multifamily workforce housing district. Now, I have something on that. Let's see, we may have already gone over, so let me just double check them. You answered that question already. Okay, we already touched on those online. Anyone else?
No,
We might find out throughout the entire thing possibly.
Yeah.
And then D, local law to map the multifamily workforce housing district to 41 Mount Ebo Road, Brewster, New York, 10509, tax map number 46-5-2. Anyone have anything to that? We basically,
I just think maybe if you could just very briefly explain what that is, Ashley.
Yes, so if the town board adopts the local law to establish this multifamily floating zoning district, the applicant is asking for that district to be mapped to their property. So this law is what would be a map amendment to map that zone to their property.
And who's going to draw that map up?
Well, the town board would vote on the law, and then
If indeed it's voted on,
AKRF would
who maps it?
update the GIS map.
So would you be doing that?
My firm would be
Pardon?
doing that. Yes, my firm would be
Well,
doing that and
right.
submitting it to the town for signature by the town clerk.
So it's not the applicant doing it, it's you doing it?
Yes.
Very good.
if I could go back to C for 1 second. The pages aren't numbered. Section 4,
You're talking about the local law, the proposed local law?
yeah, on C.
Okay.
In it, it says purpose and intent. We got the same page, they're not numbered.
On section C?
Not that, yeah.
A.
Okay.
Okay, it says a multifamily workforce housing district is hereby established in order to provide suitable opportunities within the town for development of housing designed to satisfy the needs of households maintained by and then it says disabled, the young, the elderly, and families earning less than 80%. Why are the words veterans and fire EMS, police, why are they not included in that definition? Is it just,
They were the original authors, so I'll defer.
I'm not trying to be
No, I saw the same.
In planning language, when it comes to legislative intent and purpose, it tends to be much more general. I understand.
this is for the two sites and not just specific to the site?
Correct.
Okay.
That's for,
Okay.
and it's, I understand what you're talking about, and we went to a lot of trouble to make all of those things show up in various different locations.
'Cause it's
However, from a local law perspective, if you look at the zoning regulations,
Is
You
this-
answered the question.
And is this because of what the groups that are mentioned are protected classes? The, you know where I'm going.
Sometimes I try to be a planner, sometimes she tries to be a lawyer. So let me let me just explain something. And I think this is very, very important. Remember, when it comes to this floating zone, every single application that comes forward is different and requires a mapping. Part of our proposal as part of the community benefits package was we identified specific target groups: veterans, first responders, employees of the Brewster School District. So that's part of our community benefits plan and package as part of our application. So this legislation, properly so, is broad-based, but then you, as a town board, on every single application, you are not only, you're going to be implementing the mapping. In your legislative discretion, you could say, I don't like this application. So I don't like the groups that have been identified by this particular applicant. He's left out school teachers. And we want them in. And if the applicant says no, then obviously you say no. You don't adopt the legislation. So, I mean, that's what we have here. So,
I understand that, but I guess my question is, the disabled, the young, the elderly, which is different ages, and families earning less than 80%, which would be affordable housing, those are all protected classes, correct?
disabled, yes. Elderly, yes, in the general sense. Families earning less than 80% of the county's annual median income, that's not a protected class.
Okay.
It's not. But affordable housing is recognized as appropriate legislation, as part of
Right.
the health, safety, and welfare of providing for housing options for those that perhaps cannot otherwise afford it but would want to live in a community. Like a teacher who's out 2 years, is working at the school district, they're earning less than 80% of the county's annual median income based upon the statistics I gave you at a work session. So we can do that.
Right, but a town board in the future could definitely say that we don't need priority groups, that, you know, we can make it just affordable housing without a priority group. I mean, as Westchester did, right? Yes.
You could do that at a later point in time on a particular application.
Right,
Yeah,
any board could do
absolutely.
that.
On a subsequent application.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Anyone else?
I just had one thing, the difference between option one and option two, okay, really have to do, I'll explain it as simply as I can. The issue is whether or not the affordable housing is tied into the priority units or not. Pure and simple, that's the way we see it. So what we're trying to do is to create a scenario where the affordable housing is targeted to the priority unit preference groups. Not that the affordable housing is outside or potentially outside of those priority groups. So we just want to be clear what we're trying to do. It's not something, it's the priority groups, and from that priority group, those are the people who would qualify for the affordable housing.
Right.
So that's the option that the applicant prefers, and is the thing that they didn't agree with on the observation from the planning board. And so that's versus what the planning board straight was, which was to identify the affordable housing as just a simple percentage of the overall project. We're making sure that gets tucked in to the priority groups.
It's the word targeted that makes me nervous, but okay. I understand, that helped explain it, thank you.
And affordable priority as opposed to priority, my confusion as well, maybe with the planning board as well, is there's no difference. I mean, whether a person with priority, you have additional, you have 17, you had 168, you've got 151 units that are available for anybody to rent, of which 33 could go to a priority person, but they're still gonna pay the same price. That's why it gets confusing.
Except for the 17, yes.
I would just like to point out that in terms of the text difference between option one and option two, the only text difference is option two includes as item number G4, the sentence, at least 30% of the project unit shall be designed to serve the preference group population, i.e. priority units. Option one does not include that sentence, but I would like to point out that in option one and option two, that a very similar sentence is already included in, what is it? In D1, where it says a minimum of 30% of the project unit shall be designed as priority units for occupancy by eligible households. So, in my opinion, the inclusion of G4 is redundant.
So you make the correction when it comes forward.
Well, the applicant would prefer that it stay, and my suggestion is that it's
Would
redundant.
prefer that G4 stay?
Yes.
Gotcha.
And what option is that? 2?
That was option two.
Okay. Okay. We will now move on to, thank you for coming. We'll now move on to discussion on the Brewster Public Library expansion referendum. before you start, I'll let you announce yourself, and I want to just
Sure.
explain what's taking place this evening.
Hi, I'm Gina Loprenzo. I'm the director of the Brewster Public Library.
Okay.
On behalf of the Board of Trustees, I'd like to thank you for having us here tonight. We understand that since we were put on the agenda, it's been determined that this can't go to a vote tonight, so instead of giving you a really detailed presentation, I'm just going to give you kind of an overview of our proposal, and then maybe just give you a little snapshot of what the library looks like now. I've given you a brief history in your packet of the library over the last 200 so years. As many of you know, the library of 2016 is much different than that. It's much different than it was even 20 years ago. If you look through the slides that I have, you know, the main focus now is a lot of it is technology, a lot of it is programming, and these are areas where we're falling short now because of the lack of space that we have. So we'd like to do an expansion. We'd like to continue to grow to meet the needs of the community. So just going through, if you look through the packet at some of the services we're providing now, the technology, you know, we have a certain amount of public computers that are just not cutting it for the amount of people that come in and want them. The programs that we have, we just don't have the space to accommodate the people that want to come into them. Although I think 30% of the town of Southeast residents are library card holders, I think a lot of people aren't aware of the services that we provide. And of those card holders, many of those patrons are going to neighboring libraries because they're able to accommodate them more so than the Brewster Library is able to. In the surrounding areas, there's been many renovations of the libraries. If you look at the town of Patterson, Kent, Mayapack, those libraries are able to accommodate a lot of the patrons that we can't, and we'd like to be able to serve our community better. I think they deserve it. So in terms of this being a pressing issue, at this point, we understand that we can't go for a ballot this November, but there are things that are kind of, you know, pressing us to want to do this as soon as possible because our building is getting old, as you know. There's repairs that need to be done. There's certain things that we wouldn't want to necessarily take on, such as replacing windows and things. If we were to go to an expansion, that would be, you know, for nothing. We would have to basically rip out the repairs that we did. A window might not exist if we were to do what we want to do the following year. Some other things that, you know, there's the energy efficiency. We'd love to replace lightings with LED. Are we going to have those same light fixtures if we do an expansion or a renovation? We don't know. So those are things we don't really want to put tax dollars into now if we don't have to. So I guess what we'd like to consider at this point is to go to a special election. Most library bond referendums do go to a special election. So we'd like that to be something that the board might consider that would give us a little bit more time maybe to do in, you know, midwinter or early spring so that we would know going forward whether we should be doing repairs or whether we would be getting ready to do a big renovation expansion project. So as far as the board goes, we'd like to invite some of you to come in or all of you to come in and have a look at the library, you know, kind of get to know us and what we do. Ask any questions that you have of us, of the services we provide, and just, you know, take a look at the building, see what we're talking about, and I invite any questions you have now.
Okay, let me just update. You and Rick came to my office around July 27th of this year. I had heard rumors of a possible expansion, and when you came to me, it was really the first official time that something had taken place. And I hope you were appreciative that we fast-tracked it. I mean,
Oh, absolutely.
I've got the email
Yeah.
chain, which I kept because I want to say, Tony Haig dragged his feet. I don't drag my feet on anything.
No, you certainly didn't.
Okay, so I got an email the 27th, the 28th, the 29th. The unfortunate thing is, and I don't know why it didn't come forward sooner, Will and I spoke to the bond counsel about 3 days ago.
Right.
And it was the first time that he said to us about this 60 days.
Right.
I had not heard about it, okay? So,
Well, I was aware of the 60 days, but I was under the impression that the vote was going to happen tonight, so I thought we were within that 60-day time frame.
no, with the earliest we could have gotten you on the agenda was tonight. Okay, nothing, our rules, nothing passes from a work session.
Okay, I guess I misunderstood that part.
To a voting session, because the public makes comment, we make comment, and you have to have time. One thing I hate the most, and I got taken advantage of, I think, by the town at one point in time in my life, they had a public hearing, and that same night they voted on it. They didn't listen to one word that anybody said. So when I got here, because of a previous supervisor, we wanted to have a, kind of law and order, and that's the way it went down. Also, this is a fairly big project, okay? I mean, 3 million, I know it's 2.9, it's gonna be reduced to about 2.6 in borrowing.
Right.
It's a lot of money, okay? And the board needed more comment and whatever, so to do it overnight. And I did tell you, I believe I told you the very first day, to make the time frame that we were gonna try to make was gonna be almost impossible. We missed it by a fraction,
Yeah.
but we missed it. And I didn't know about, you knew about the 60 days. I didn't know about 60 days. I did not know.
Okay.
Now, you must have known for a time, so I did the best I could. I don't want anyone to go out there and say I didn't do my job. I did it. And
Yes,
until-
absolutely. I'm just, at this point, I guess going forward, we're moving beyond that. I'm just hoping that this doesn't have to wait a whole another 12 months because of that little window,
Well,
so.
I also told you on day one that I'm not in favor of special elections.
I understand
I'm not
that.
in favor of special elections because, now you're talking, December, January, people don't come out to vote. You had mentioned to me earlier, school vote, the school vote is not the same as a general election.
Mm-hmm.
We won't do it during, the board can speak for themselves, but if you try to do it during the primary, only 10% of the voters come out.
Right.
We want the public to have input. To only have a small percentage of the public come out and vote on an issue as big as this,
Right.
we want everyone to be there, and unfortunately, that'd be 1 year's time from now.
Okay.
But that's me. The other board members can, speak, so I'm not the only one to fire, but.
I don't know if Michelle knows offhand or will, but I thought that the previous town board passed some rule that special elections can't be held for town matters, going back to, that has to, any bonding or any special, and I don't know if the library would fit into this, that it would, it couldn't be put on, Christmas Eve to vote on something. If it was a town issue, of course, the school district can do what they want, and the fire district can do what they want.
And we can do what we want. We can always change whatever.
Well,
but
it could be
I'm
changed,
telling you
but
why
I
I
thought
would
that's
not
what
support
stands
that.
as of now. I mean, I'd have to,
But even if it did, you could be overridden or whatever.
but I do kind of agree with Tony, the spirit of
I mean, it doesn't have to be
special elections.
midwinter where it's snowing, it could be like March, April, but we've applied for a grant from New York City. This is the other thing too, that we're trying to take advantage of as much grant money as we can. And we've applied for a grant that we will be hearing about soon. I don't know when the date is that they come back with it, but we'd like to be able to apply those funds to, if we applied for about $150,000 this year.
How much?
This $150,000 grant to do a particular portion of this big project. If
And you could still do that.
we can still do that, but if we don't know that we can do the whole thing,
But the public is gonna be the
Makes-
one to, make that determination.
Mm-hmm.
And in fairness to them, most people would like this would have been I don't know why this didn't come sooner than, say, July 27th. We had started earlier. This would have all been done, but it didn't. Again, since day one, I told you to get this done was almost impossible, but unfortunately, we came in fourth, we didn't get the bronze. But you wanted the gold. And I didn't know it until this gentleman, we talked the other day, and it was the first time it was brought up, and then 2 days later, he sends the email, he found a previous recommendation to the state controller's office.
right.
And that's what we're bound by, unfortunately.
I know there is some, discrepancy there with whether it's 45 days, 60 days. There's been some precedent where it's been done closer to the general election. But then there's rules and procedures that have to get followed for that. So, there is a possibility of still doing it, but that would be, I guess, totally at your discretion.
My concern is always transparency, and This obviously is a big project that will affect people, people's pocketbook. It will break the tax cap. People really need to understand that. We've tried with Tony at the helm. I have to give him credit because I loathe looking at budgets, but we've been able to maintain that. People have been very happy. They get their checks and their taxes are high enough. So to me, it's very important to also, I would really strongly suggest if you can look at consolidation, because I noticed in your plans, there's about a 50-person, 49 or 50-person auditorium, but Studio around the corner, right across the way, has what, I think they seat 69 down there, and they are working hard to, yeah, that's the legal.
I've had 30 people in that room and it's crowded.
Well, no, that's
but-
I think that's the legal.
Okay.
I've been in there for concerts where there's more than that. There's
Okay.
about 60. So in any case, I think that's something that you're going to be asked by the public to explore.
Mm-hmm.
And it's something I would, and that I would really encourage, because I think everybody is looking for consolidation. And the other thing, and it's my fault I didn't call you, but I was trying to find out more about the expansion, but your minutes, maybe you didn't have meetings in June or July, but those minutes aren't on your website still. So I was trying to, just so you know, they're not.
Okay.
That was important, because I like to come prepared to meetings, and so that's something too that, you know, I think would be helpful for the public to be able to go on and read, the process and what's been taken into account.
Right. We have, we've had programs at Studio around the corner. We've had programs at the Southeast Museum.
Right.
We've also had a large number of groups calling us to have programs at the library. And most often the conversation ends with, how many people do you need to accommodate? And if they say 15 or 20, we say, move on, because our room seats about 10 to 12. So, and then, and then there's scheduling, because we use that room, as you can see from one of the slides, for our board meetings, our programs, our employee interviews, evaluations, private phone calls. It's the only room with a door. If an employee wants to take a break and have a sandwich, it's in there. So it's basically our only room. So maybe it's shooting for the stars to have a 50-room capacity space. I think that's kind of ideal, but I think any less than that wouldn't be that, I mean, to go from 10 to 12 to 50, I don't think it's that great of a jump, but
Edwin,
we could look at.
any comment?
No.
Bob? Liz?
No.
Okay, I did find out the one thing that you had asked me, and that's what's it gonna cost the average taxpayer per, Lori Bell, our assessor, helped prepare the number. On the average household, the $331,965 would be $32.10 a year. Now, the first year it would be affected, because without a doubt, it would exceed the tax cap. And what happens with the tax cap, when it exceeds, the town would exceed the tax cap, so whatever portion of the check they would get from the state, which includes school districts, town and county, the fact that the town exceeded the tax cap, whatever refund they would have gotten, they would not get that year. And I don't know what that number is, but I'll try to figure it out. It might be 20, it might be $30. I don't know what it is, but I'll find out. That's only for year number one, as you know.
Okay. Does anybody else want to add anything from?
And just as far as the election, I think the other reason why the town wanted, and I gotta speak to Will, we gotta find it, but no special elections is because if we did have a special election, the town would have to pay for poll workers, and as it is now, when the elections are held on election day, Putnam County pays the tab, so it's
Okay.
cheaper for us to do that.
Sure. I mean, I was under the impression the library would incur the costs of that if we did
I
that.
mean,
Yeah, but your
don't-
cost is our cost, though. and
Well,
the
of
taxpayers.
course,
Right.
yeah.
I mean, I don't know how, since I've been involved, we never had a special election here for a
Okay.
town level that the county didn't pay for, but, it's just
And you don't
something
get
to
the,
think about.
you don't get the turnout. The
Right.
turnout is poor. And again, primary would probably be the second biggest election that we would have per se, although this year we had like 3 of them. No, we're gonna have a third one like next week, and it's horrible. The Congress one, I think we only got about 8.5% of the voters turn out for it. And that's not how you wanna put it past a $3 million or $2.6 million bond. It's not fair.
And for a primary election, only people who are registered to a certain political party can vote, and there are a lot of people that are blanks or whatever, so they wouldn't, well, I mean, if it was a special thing, but they wouldn't be
Right.
focused on coming into a primary election because they're not allowed to vote in primaries. But
Okay.
that's how I feel.
Okay,
Well, again, I invite you all to come. I mean, even if it's just to look forward to next year, to come and just, take a look at the library, ask any questions that you have, see what we have to offer. We welcome you.
okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, make a motion now to go to the regular portion of the meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Number, let me get squared away, hold on. And thank you for coming this evening, ladies and gentlemen, from the library. Okay. Resolution, determination of significance seeker, Barrett Hill LLC petition project. We just went through that. I'll move for discussion.
Second.
Discussion.
I was told by Ashley that the resolution regarding the determination of significance, that we should have a discussion on it, which originally we had under the work session, but which we changed down over to the determination of significance. I just wanted to clarify that. So this is the discussion that would qualify.
So it's moved for discussion.
It's moved for discussion. Just wanted to make sure that that was on the record. One thing that I would say is, one question. Underneath, in the resolution itself, underneath number 13, the second paragraph, it says, "The town board held publicly noticed meetings on April 23rd, 2015. Then it says May 21st, 2016, then October 1st, 2015, then June 9. I just wanted to make certain that it wasn't May 21st, 2015.
I think that may be a typo. I think that was supposed to be.
I just wanted to make sure that that was,
So you're
if
gonna
indeed
move,
it was a typo,
okay, so you're gonna move to change the date on that?
yes. So I wanted to just note that, and just say that I'm going to support
Where's number, I don't have, where's 13?
Yeah.
Why don't,
with 13? Right here,
I see that, this 13?
right here, right, no, 2 paragraphs down. April 23rd, 2015, May 21st, 2016, October 1st, 2015. I'm getting this from,
Oh, okay, no, I got it.
okay. So I don't.
I'm looking for roll number 13. I
Yes,
have to 11. I knew my Roman numerals, but, okay.
No,
I
no,
didn't know
just
the English
a
ones.
real number.
Okay.
The Romans, we've left the Romans.
Okay, so which ones were you gonna change to make
So-
it official?
It was the May 21st, 2015.
Okay, then it was October 1st, 15, then on and on. So the rest is accurate, correct?
Michelle, you got that correction?
May 21st, 2015 should be May 21st, 2016?
No, April 21st, 15, May 21st, 16 should be 15.
Oh, got it, okay.
Okay, second paragraph after.
And Ashley, since you have the original and we don't have the original, can you make that change and send it to Michelle
Yes, I'll make
tomorrow?
that change and send it to Michelle. And I will double check that meeting date as well.
Okay.
So I'll make a motion that on this particular one, that any date you have to change to make it coincide with reality, to it be done. So on that motion, all in favor?
Aye. And like I said, I'll be supporting a determination of significance, which is a negative declaration, which is embodied in this resolution. And on the basis of what's stated in there, it's an extensive description of the actions that have been taken, the different letters and documents that have been circulated regarding it. It's my understanding, if indeed the majority of the board supports the negative declaration, that their next step would be that it will be circulated to the involved agencies, correct?
That's correct.
Okay.
And you'll be sending us that information too, right?
Yes, I will provide, all the addresses are on the notice itself.
And don't miss anything, get me in trouble.
And I will send the notice to the ENB, the Environmental Notice Bulletin.
Okay, any more discussion? On the motion, roll call vote.
Okay, Councilman Alvarez,
Yes.
Councilman Cullen,
Yes.
Councilwoman Eckhart,
No, and I would like to say, because I disagree profoundly, because it does differ from the comprehensive plan, so I will be voting no on this.
Okay. Councilwoman Hudak,
Yes.
Supervisor Hay.
No. Passes 3-2. Next item is to set a public hearing on local law to establish multifamily workforce housing district Thursday, September 22, 2016, and we'll move at the same time, set public hearing on local law to map the multifamily workforce housing district to 41 Mount Evo Road North, Brewster, New York, 10509, tax map number 46-5-2, Thursday, September 22nd, 2016, and they have been forwarded to the newspaper and will be in the paper come Monday. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next is to set a public hearing for a special permit for Guardian Veterinarian Management LLC for Thursday, September 22nd, 2016. So moved.
Second.
Discussion?
Are they coming to talk to us about it?
They're going to come in, we'll ask during.
Because I don't know anything about it.
No.
so, okay.
Okay, during this public hearing,
Okay.
we will ask our comments. What happened in the end? Did we get a final? Did we do all in favor yet?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Will, I'll share that with you after the meeting.
Already done.
Huh, you done?
Already done.
Where'd you find it? Okay. Number 2, resolution, intermunicipal cooperation grant funding storm damage assessment program. After Hurricane Sandy, New York State Electric and Gas, and all the utility companies in the area found out they needed some help in the field. And town of Pound Ridge applied for a grant. They invited, I think, all the towns in Putnam County.
I was there.
I was too.
At that meeting? No, you weren't.
Well, no, this one,
Oh, okay.
the one where we actually are gonna you go to the ones we don't get money for.
I go the ones that give you lunch.
Oh, he goes for lunch. Okay. At any rate, it's a good program. What it is, they're gonna provide us with the equipment, which in this case, we only need a couple of handheld devices, iPods or iPads or whatever. And we are gonna be the eyes and ears for the electric company. Unfortunately, only 5 towns. We were the only one in Putnam that signed up and received a grant. And I think there was 4 others from Westchester County that received the grant. We can get up to about $19,000. So it pays for, we're gonna get one, no, I don't think we even need the program now. We just need 3 laptop computers possibly, handhelds, and the maintenance of them. So the $19,000 is set aside for us to use, and I want to thank them for doing that. So basically, if a pole goes down, the highway department's gonna be the one mostly involved with it. While they're out there, they have to take the iPad, just push the button, find out what the pole number is, identify it, and it goes right to NISAC. And it's like they have eyes and ears, and it's something that will really help them out tremendously, and it's a good program.
Right, I went, it was probably about 2 years ago, maybe less than that, but Town of Pound Ridge is very proactive, and they got hit really bad with a lot of trees down, and they lost power in their town for like a week, I believe, during Sandy. But what it is iPads and municipal workers will go out to the scene where the trees are down and the poles are down, and like Tony said, they'll take a picture, identify a pole number, and it goes directly to NYSEG. That way NYSEG can prioritize, what situation's better. It's a way for them to visualize what's, what the problem is, or how bad of a problem and what resources they need. So it's great that we're getting this.
And most of the towns that did participate do have police forces.
Right,
Okay, and we don't. So it's gonna work well for us, it's gonna work even better for them, but, we took the minimum. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I needed a second on that one.
No
Second.
Got one now. Okay, resolution to reappoint Mr. John Handy to the Board of Assessment Review, 10/1/2016 to 9/30/2021. So move for discussion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And tonight is a resolution to audit of the Justice Court records. Resolved that the town clerk is directed to enter a copy of this resolution into the minutes of this meeting and to forward certified copy of this resolution together with a copy of the report dated June 20, 2016 to Joan Casaza, Internal Control Liaison, New York State Office of Court Administration, 2500 Pond View, Suite LL01, Castleton on the Hudson, New York 12033, We're required to do this every year by resolution, forward it to them, and we're complied with the state controller's requirements. So move for discussion. Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, recognition of the public.
Rick.
Rick.
Of course he's public.
If I may, just one comment. You set the date for the public hearing on a local law, but I think you should choose option 1 or option 2.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
Yeah, there were 2 options, the
You,
local law.
yes.
And
did you, by the
From-
way, did you post that today for Will? Did he, I read an email.
There's
Did-
been in the, they're in the newspaper.
The what?
They're in the newspaper. Did you, does it have to say if it's option 1 or option 2? I don't think so.
Yeah, I mean,
no, my question is this. Ashley gave you 2 options, option 1 or option 2 of the local law. I don't think you ever decided which option you want to use as the local law for the purpose of the public hearing. So, doesn't matter to us. As Ashley pointed out,
Well,
there-
actually, if we say both, we can't go wrong. We'll just read
Well-
the extra, but it's option 2.
okay, that's fine.
We asked the question, I heard the word option 2. Is that correct?
Is that what we want? What you want, that's fine. I
But-
just think, just for clarity purposes, so,
Okay.
that's fine. Anything else, Ashley?
Well, we-
Okay, now I'm confused.
No,
I hate to
The
say,
text of the proposed local law has to be in final form in front of you all.
correct.
A certain number of days in advance. So I think that's what Mr. O'Rourke
Yes.
is trying to.
I guess what I would also like to know is should I, in advance of the next meeting, be making changes to the rec fee section to make it the town board instead of the planning board?
We also have the occupancy thing if no one else, I mean, we really didn't, I mean,
Well,
We-
we're not
it should
out
be-
of session yet, so,
Well, I think the town board should do the rec fees since we've been doing everything else. To go back to give that to the planning board, I think is,
I'd rather leave it with the planning board. They're gonna be doing, like Ashley pointed out, they're gonna do the site plan approval and be doing the whole project from soup to nuts.
Well, if I could interject, the community benefits agreement, something that's going to be negotiated by this board. And the way I envision it, those rec fees are going to be incorporated in that community benefits agreement.
What is that, well, once again, so if the rec fees are in the community benefits agreement, it will dictate the rec fee, or who will determine the rec fee, the planning board or the zoning board?
It'll determine,
I'm sorry, say again?
it'll determine what the rec fee is.
by the town board. And
For this particular project, but what if there's another project?
It's always
For
done with
any,
the
any
town.
project, because any project would be required to have a community
Well,
benefit.
it's
The
set by
same
statute.
community benefits agreement?
Yeah.
Oh, so in essence, what you're saying essentially is the community benefits agreement's gonna set it regardless, so if town board, planning board, it would be irrelevant?
Well, no, it's going to be a function of a calculation, as I understand it,
Yep.
that will be worked out as part of the community benefits agreement.
But to determine who's going to be in charge, the planning board or the town board?
It
as
would
was-
be us in this case. Normally, it's under the planning board. All planning board applications, it's done through the
Right.
planning board. In this particular case, it's gonna be done through the community benefit package,
Yes.
okay? And we will make that determination.
So
Okay.
I think that I think then we should update section I to be more clear that it would be the town board responsibility, based on what I'm hearing from the board members. Is that correct?
because if it's a
It's gonna be-
regular subdivision with houses, it's 7,500, right, per
Yeah.
lot?
Yes.
So this is kind of a unique situation, because it's not,
What I'm hearing is the town board's doing it anyway, as part of the community benefits agreement.
And each project that would come before this board would have its own community benefits agreement. I mean, if another project came.
And therefore, it would be
before
the town board doing it?
Correct.
In that
Okay,
case, yeah.
so then,
so that's.
Only in that case and the
Gotcha.
other case, they may come forward. All the others are done at the planning board level.
well, this is specific to this
Yes.
floating
This
zone,
type of
period.
application in
And
this
there's
So
two
that's the
floating
only
zones.
thing we're affecting is this
Right.
floating zone, which is always gonna have the community benefits agreement, that the town board, for all intents and purposes, is the board that will be making the calculations in accordance with the community benefits agreement. I got it.
But-
Town board.
To be clear, if the other Terravest is zoned, the senior housing there, if they were to come in front of us, they would also have a community benefits,
If they were to have this.
if they were switching to this.
Yeah, if they had this map to their property, yes.
Right, so it would be the town board, or would it be determined at that point, or would it?
Well, based on what I'm hearing, I'm going
Right.
to suggest updating section I to be clearly within the town board's purview as part of the community benefits agreement, as opposed to the planning board as part of site plan.
Okay,
That's, yeah,
okay.
yep.
Yes,
And then what
and-
was the other?
The other thing I think
Which
is
option?
important is occupancy in that,
I think they got option two.
because what Tony mentioned is going to affect the size, could affect the size of the bedrooms.
Well, no, they're gonna make it,
So,
they only have to increase it by 15 or 20 square feet.
Right.
They'll go for the 5. For a
Right.
two-bedroom. 5 is, so you wanna know, do you want 4 in a 2-bedroom, or you want?
yes,
5?
that's what I was asking for, and if the board thinks 5 is fine, then we'd go with 5, but it would be helpful so that the applicant,
But just, I kind
Yes.
of, like Edwin said at the beginning of the discussion, I mentioned it to you on the phone the other day when I spoke to you, you know, who enforces that? Do we do that to any other buildings? You know,
This is the
This is
only,
new.
section of the
Well-
but that would have an occupancy standard.
right, but there is, I believe, state law,
But there is fire code. and
fire
building
code about
that
how
would
many
affect
people could be in a
occupancy.
bedroom anyway, and I
Yeah,
thought
well,
it
you-
was
you can-
always 2, but I may be wrong,
Now,
I don't know.
again, the way I read it, once there's more than one, it's 75 for one, but every time there's more than one, it increases by 50. So if there's 3, you have to provide 150 square feet. If you have 2 people, you
That's
have to
state
provide.
code?
That's
That's
state
right.
code, yep, right here, chapter 4.
No, I knew there was something, I just,
I mean,
Now, the
it'll
only thing
be-
is, going back to Lynn's question, if you have a 2-bedroom with 5 occupants, you figure husband and wife, or whatever, live-ins, whatever you want to call them,
Right.
and then 3 additionals. Now, is grandma going to live with 2 kids or 3 kids? So if you have 3 in that extra bedroom, you're looking at 249 people. If you have 4, you're looking at 166. There is a big difference
Yes.
in numbers.
and as for enforcement, as you were saying, there is going to be, there's supervision on site, or not, if not on site, there is going to be a company, someone hired to.
Yes, there's
correct?
supposed to be a management company that
Management
would
company.
enforce the affordable
Right.
housing.
they come in. do
No, and
inspection.
no. What I look at this as is protection as far as, if you have a neighbor that's fabulous and they have 3 kids and no one cares, no one tells on them, everything's fine,
Well,
then
3
there
kids
is.
is okay at the
Well,
moment.
then, no one's gonna say anything, and they're gonna skate. If someone it's problematic, they're gonna,
Yeah.
I mean, that's like anything in life, when you have a neighbor, I mean, we can all tattle on our neighbors if we don't like them, but,
Currently with our town
know.
code, I can tell you right now, the building department can truly not act unless someone has made a complaint, which will happen, and you enforce it accordingly.
so I don't think enforcement's as big a deal as, I know in this town it is, and people really care about it, but in this case, I think it can be enforced if it needs to be enforced, because it isn't the town doing the enforcing. So, that was, and I do think I am concerned with the number of children in the schools, so that was my other reason.
Well, getting back to the seminal issue, I think it's either 4 or 5. I'm gonna say 5.
But we also, if these are rentals, they'd be subject to the rental registration law too, right, where the town would come in once a year. And I don't know how many people they would, but they would have to be, you know, make sure there's fire alarms and whatever else they do.
Okay, number.
So I say leave it at 5 then, based on the conversation we just had.
And we will get input on this at the, I would think at the next public hearing.
I'm sorry, say that again?
We would get input if the public feels differently, we'll hear from them
Okay.
as well.
Yeah,
So,
got it.
I mean, majority of the board wants to leave it at 5.
Are all the ambiguities cleared up now?
I think so, yes.
Does the applicant believe all the ambiguities are cleared up now? Very good.
Public comment. And I have to say, we've really enjoyed your hiatus. It's good to see though.
I've been touring Putnam
Yes,
County.
you really
I've been
We read about you in the paper
You're
all the time.
preoccupied with others.
touring. But,
I feel like we almost have
I
good
always-
government
I
here.
always have to come home, you know.
Oh, no. We know where home is. That's in
This-
Carmel.
I thought it was
Yeah,
in
well, I
Phillipstown,
was going to
actually.
mention Carmel, but forgive me if I ask a question that has already been asked.
For those of you that want to know, mailing address is Carmel.
Excuse me?
No, I'm trying, when we say Carmel, mailing address is Carmel, but you're a Southeast resident.
Okay. This particular zoning arrangement and all of these wonderful benefits, this was formerly an OP2 zone. Is this going to be applicable to other OP2?
No, just two. Just two in this proposal, one up at Terra Vista and one at Mount Nebo.
In other words, the Terravest housing.
One
that you might
is the
remember
old
that was-
Terravis senior housing.
Yes,
Yeah,
that would
and-
be eligible.
Because no one else is eligible, it's a 25-acre minimum,
Okay,
and no one else meets the requirement except for those two parcels.
okay, fine, that settles it. Do we have a, in the code, do we have rec fee structure? Do we
Yes,
have
we
it?
do. $7,500 per lot is usually the way it is.
Per lot, so we do have that, you
Well,
know.
but this is not lots, these are units. so
I
it's gonna be- it's
understand,
gonna be
yeah, I
negotiated,
understand that.
maybe.
But we had that situation in Carmel, and I don't want to take the time of the town board. But there was in fact, there was a case up at the retreat. The retreat, like Hunter's Glen, where Fieldston has, amenities and so forth. And the developer said, oh, wait a minute. These folks, really, they're not taking up, any of the town's recs, and they shouldn't be paying. Well, they did pay. I think there was a court case, and the people in the retreat are paying rec fees. So it's, I'm going to look further into it, but that is my recollection of it. So just because they're units and not lots does not, exclude them from the rec fees. And the rec fees, of course, are used to maintain the various parks and so forth. And they have been a boon to the town of Carmel. I don't know about here in Southeast, but they might be a boon here too. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ann.
Yeah, it was a pleasure seeing you all.
We missed you.
You did?
Yeah, okay.
We did.
You're only teasing.
Hope to see you in about 6 months.
God, jeez.
The
I-
county will keep you busy. so.
Yeah.
Hi, Kathy Croft. I have a couple of questions about the tax cap and the library. If so, let's say that was on next year in November 2017.
You mean
and
the
it-
referendum?
The referendum. And if it passed, when does it actually, because you set your budget in,
It would be the following year's budget.
so it would go, okay,
Right now, I'm preparing the 2017 budget, so if
Right.
it got passed in November,
right,
it would be effective in 2018 budget,
right. And then, so it would increase it by that amount.
yes.
And
would be
then the next
substantial.
year, so we wouldn't get the checks and everything.
Now, so there's no confusion, I think I tried to clarify it at the time. The STAR pertains to 3 units, county, school, and town, not STAR?
Right.
That's what you wouldn't get.
Yes.
Okay, but I
Well, let's
think
clarify. We
other
mentioned-
people want to understand
Yes.
it too.
Okay.
Lori
So-
can maybe clarify that. Yeah. I think it would be good.
I was under the impression, though, if it was a vote of referendum and voters voted for a bond, that was exempt from the cap?
Not-
Maybe,
not this.
I may be wrong.
Not
I can't answer that. I thought so too, but I'm not sure. So with the tax freeze, if we exceed the tax cap, only the town's portion of that tax freeze rebate would not be reimbursed to the homeowners. If your tax bill for your town portion goes up, you would still get your county portion back and your school bill back. Okay, and then, since Tony explained that it would be the 2018 budget that would take effect on, so you would see that potential increase in your town and county bill until January 2019. Yeah, sure.
And then my next question is, so it increases for that year, then the following year,
Now it's already built into our budget. But I'm going to tell you now, the following year, they will ask for additional monies only because now they have a bigger building. heat,
Operating
electricity,
and maintenance.
And they haven't received a raise, although the last raise was really substantial. They haven't had a raise, say, in 5 years' time.
Right.
They went from like 190 or something like that to 320.
335, I believe.
320.
Those 320.
yeah. Now, you had mentioned, and do you post there, I mean, do you get you must get a detailed budget from?
We don't have detailed budgets, but this year I will be sending a letter to both the fire department and to the library. We want detailed, itemized budgets in the future.
Right, and then will you post that on the town's
Yes, we
website?
will.
Great, thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Board? Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to close tonight's meeting?
Oh, yeah, the Founder's Day?
Yes.
Yeah, the Founder's Day, it's a wonderful event. Founder's Day in the Village of Brewster. They'll be celebrating an anniversary. It's September 17th. Pardon me, 18th. September 18th, 7 and 11. September 18th, and, you know, we're there. I certainly know I'll be there. And it's a really neat event. And like I said, they're going to have special, you know, extra special, different events, different, I know they're going to have the bouncy castles, et cetera. So I'd encourage everyone to go there. It's been my experience. It's always a nice weather day.
It's going to be the best one yet.
Best one yet.
Okay, it was moved by Edwin, seconded by,
I'll second it.
all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all for coming.